great admiration for their willingness to get the kind of street cred, for example, that you have. Willing to be involved in civic affairs, to volunteer, to promote their communities, and to also to run for office. Something that libertarians can learn from progressive Democrats. These people, while I don't always agree with them, these people as a group genuinely care, which makes all the more baffling their willingness to close their eyes, the see no evil, hear no evil act towards other Democrats. And I know, it's this weekend to me is a litmus test. If progressives that are all serious about reforming the state in whatever model they want, if they walk away with anything less than, at a minimum, the Senate majority leadership, they've lost. They need to just go home then, all right? Because their people are on the front lines. Their people have a vote. They've got a voice in the room. And they can affect change if they've got the balls to do it.
Right. Call your rep.
Yeah.
Call your rep.
Hound your rep.
Yeah. It's all the stalking rules normally apply. If you feel like feel like you're on the edge of getting some type of court order, I offer a free service. I'm willing to go out and call the guy at home. By the way, call him at home.
Better yet, call your rep and ask your neighbors to call your rep.
Tell
your neighbors this is important. It's important that we get someone in place who values open government, transparency, fairness. Get rid of this cronyism.
The future of the state is literally now. Joe Bernstein was in last week, who's another friend of the show, and he called me this afternoon. And of course, he's all agog about potentially certain Republicans siding with a more progressive environment. I'm convinced at this point, no matter what happens, the state's going down the tubes. So again, I see future agony on every single level. I don't know if there's a way to pull it back. I frankly think it's too late. But for the sake of argument, if the Republicans end up going along now, according to recent reports, I guess the entire Republican caucus minus Dorian Costa was allegedly with Marcello's camp, or at least
they've met with both camps.
They met with both camps. So the question, of course, is where is Dorian Costa on all this? Is Dorian Costa going to sell out to the Foxanistas? What happened to Mattiello versus?
She's got ads to sell, so that should play into it.
Is that this week, or is she in another job?
And raffle tickets, of course.
All right. As we go into the break, after the break, of course, we're going to focus on the next level, which is in sort of baseless conversation about all the potential causes of why Gordon Fox's offices were searched. Again, I have as much information, legitimate information as this, as I do on the missing jetliner. That won't stop me from speculating on either.
Right. And it doesn't stop anybody else.
Exactly. But
so actually, if you have a theory, please hit us up on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll boot it around.
Yeah, however ridiculous the theory is, it holds a place in our heart today.
I hear rumors of Gordon Fox being a Sasquatch reptilian.
So before we head into the break, I just want to touch on, you mentioned where's the Republican caucus going to fall?
Yeah.
I honestly think, from what I know of the reps in that caucus, that they are more likely to go with a Marcello Blazejewski because, number one, the open government thing. Mm-hmm. And their battle in this House has been, it's a battle between those who hold power and those who expect and want to break the existing power structure. And if they want to break that existing power structure, they do not go with Mattiello and DeSimone.
Fingers crossed that they haven't been bribed in some way behind the scenes.
No.
I'm not suggesting anyone's doing anything illegal. I'm talking about the kind of horse trading that goes on.
I mean, you would imagine that there would be at least a couple of committee. I mean, could you go so far as to have a minority member chairing a committee? Is that possible within the House rules, or are there really no rules? Well, they play Calvin ball.
The House makes up their rules every year. I mean, the rules change every single year. And I got to tell you, it's one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen. You would think it was the most boring thing to watch.
No, but it's like they're playing quarters or something. Every time somebody lands a quarter, they get to make up a new rule or something.
Well, and then you see these floor amendments, especially coming out of that Republican caucus, that are good government legislations that get voted down out of hand because of where they come from.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I'm hoping if they get somebody in who values open government, that they actually pass something binding that makes that sort of, makes arbitrary behavior
Well, Dave, you had some suggestions.
takes it off the table.
You had some suggestions. For example, the notion that a House rule becomes no more tabling for further. Elaborate on that.
Well, these are actually floor amendments that came out of the Republican caucus. Beginning of 2013? Yeah, beginning of the session. When a bill comes to the House, to the full body of the House, insisting that there be an up or down vote on it, and none of this, we're going to send it back to committee. If there's an up vote on it, great, it becomes law, or at least goes on to the Senate. If there's a down vote on it, it goes nowhere, and the sponsor of the bill can reintroduce it.
Right.
It's that simple.
And people are on record as having voted for it or against it.
Exactly. So what they do is with unpopular bills, they take this like, oh no, we're going to send it back to committee because they don't want the political fallout from voting on those bills that are unpopular.
Right.
One of the other floor amendments I think really should go into and this is crazy, like every year, about a month before the end of the session, the House suspends the rules of the House. And that's when you start to really see the bills fly because they're no longer subject to their own rules that they pass for themselves, so that they can just like legislate away without really any public scrutiny or oversight or anything like that, which I think definitely needs to change. And I think that the tenor of what goes on in most legislation does not happen on the floor of the House, nor does it happen in committee. It happens in people's offices. Like Christine said, there's a lot of horse trading that goes on. And I think that
and some of it is necessary to get things done. People, if I want something and I'm not overly keen on your bill, but I don't hate it, it's in my best interest to hold out. But
that can't be the de facto
it shouldn't be
method of getting things done.
And unfortunately, it seems as if that is the way everything gets done. And the only way things get done.
I would agree with that.
We're about halfway through the show, which means before P.O. strokes out, we're going to take a quick break. You are tuned in to the Coalition, coalitionradio.us.
Manchester 65 is New England's newest live music and events venue. If you're not completely enjoying your current live music experience, there is another option. Manchester 65 is large enough to support touring acts, yet small enough for that local feel. For upcoming events, go to manchester65.com. Make it your place. Manchester65.com.
Liberty-loving freedom fighters, join us for Liberty Love Fest 4, an evening of live music, arts, education, and trade. Potluck social with liberty-minded people from New England and beyond. April 5th at St. Joseph's Church Hall in Cumberland, Rhode Island. Details on the web at libertylovefest.org. That's libertylovefest.org.
ProvidenceNightOut.com is a one-stop destination website where you'll discover a comprehensive guide of everything that the Providence area has to offer. Nightlife, entertainment, dining and dancing, community and family events, and so much more. Download the free app called My Night Out. It's ProvidenceNightOut.com.
Hey everybody, it's Tony Jones. When I'm not here yakking about politics, I spin records. That's right, if you like good old-fashioned rock and roll radio the way God intended it to be, then tune in to The Tony Jones Show. The information's online at tonyjones.org. That's tonyjones.org.
Tony Jones here. You are tuned in to the Coalition online at coalitionradio.us. Big thank you to everybody checking in on Twitter at coalition_radio. And to our old friend, Ken Not Running for Governor Block, for checking in at facebook.com/the Coalition Radio. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our friend Todd Giroux. He'll be at the State House this Tuesday officially launching his bid for governor. So kind of a tough news week to launch a bid, but I have noticed Todd being taken a little bit more seriously. He's being included in the polls and things of that nature. So our old pal will be out there this Tuesday.
Good, and I hope people are noticing his name showing up in the polls, and even if they don't know who he is.
Which I've noticed that the mainstream media insists on calling Todd Giroux perennial candidate Todd Giroux to kind of slam him a little. However, Todd ran last time. He's running this time.
Is running twice perennial?
Ken Block ran last time, and he's running this time. Yet they don't give him that little nudge for some reason. I don't know. Could it be because he has that little R next to his name?
Well,
he just has a lot of dollars in his pocket.
Right. I actually had it out with the people at HJJ because in their lame-o morning show, I spoke to their program coordinator, who, if you're a football fan, I call him the Matt Millen of local radio. That's not a compliment.
I don't know what that means.
All right. Basically, someone who, Matt Millen was the general manager of the Detroit Lions. Any casual football fan will understand that he historically ran the franchise into the ground. HJJ was once actually a viable radio station, and they for a station like HJJ to take a cheap shot at a good man like Todd Giroux, who, we need to be encouraging people to run. I don't get, and this pisses me off. I don't get where someone running for office should be made all of a sudden a caricature when he has done nothing but advance a well-documented, serious set of ideas. You may choose to agree or disagree. You may choose to vote or not vote for him. That is your choice in a free country. However, in this country, we desperately need citizenry to become involved on a day-to-day basis. And part of that, and the most difficult and challenging of it, Dave, you can attest to this, is actually taking off from part of your life and running for high-level political office.
P.O., you don't have a life, so you should be perfect.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is difficult, and I certainly don't think it's a decision that anybody takes lightly. And I've met with Todd on quite a few occasions. He had me on his show over at GX when I was running for mayor. And I think if people looked at what he's proposing and listened to him speak on what he's proposing to do for Rhode Island, it makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't see, and there's, again, a discussion we've had over and over again where people start to run for office, and because they're already in office or they have some type of name recognition, the public gives them a pass on having any type of specific program. They come out with the glad handing and the lip service and the platitudes and a bunch of we need, we should, I will, but there's never any specifics on how it's going to be accomplished.
Strong new ideas, a bold new vision. Yeah, geez, if I'd only thought of that. That's it. The state's saved. That's just what we needed, brave new ideas.
Yep, boldness.
Right.
It kind of reminds me like the Republican primary in 2008 when Rudy Giuliani was running. Anytime things got hairy for him, he would say, I was there on 9/11.
Somebody was goofing on him. They said everything Rudy Giuliani says is noun, verb, 9/11.
Well, and look at, let's take a second to look at the candidates' responses to this week's foolishness. All right? Clay Pell. It's so innocuous, I can't even remember what he said. And I'm a junkie for this stuff. He basically said nothing. Absolutely nothing. Gina Raimondo was last saying, okay, if Gordon's got to go, make sure I get that killer salmon recipe. Okay? I heard it's like a Chipotle-infused kind of Tex-Mex kind of thing. That was the last thing I heard from her.
Hungry.
She continues to be, other than the Green Bank, which is a copy of somebody else's legislation that Dolores, whatever Isler is pushing. All right, she completely is a complete zero on any sort of legitimate. There's no there. So it's insulting when you see someone who's taken off from part of their life and articulating a clear vision for how they want to run the government to be, I don't know,
dismissed
diminished.
as a crackpot.
Yeah, diminished.
Which, by the way, if you ever get really bored, and I'm speaking from experience because I have, if you go to the Secretary of State's website and you look at the election results from past years, you will see a shockingly amount of races that were completely uncontested.
Yeah,
right.
All throughout the state, locally as well. You see a lot of city council, a lot of town council.
A lot of elections are decided at the primary level.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one election that's absolutely getting contested, of course, is the Providence Mayoralty. So now let's kind of pull this stinking mess into perspective here. So now you have